everyone, and have you ever wondered what would happen if Skyrim got made, but without all the dragons and stuff to clutter up the world? Well, wonder no more! For now we have Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, I realize that's a bit of an unfair shake. This game was supposed to be a 14th century style simulation game, so let's judge it by that method. That being said, let's take a look at Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, as the game starts, you're informed that it is 1403 and Charles IV of Bohemia, King of Bohemia and the Holy Roman Empire, has died. His son, King Wenceslaus, has been appointed to the throne, but he's kind of a lazy jackass. Nobody in the royal court likes that, and so they call on his half-brother, King Sigismund of Hungary, to try and assert the throne. He does so in a fairly brutal fashion. You start out playing as a young peasant boy, who I'm pretty sure is closer to 25, but, I mean, whatever. This isn't you, by the way. You live somewhere far else. And it is your quest, I guess is the best way to describe it, to go through and become something more. Now, in so doing, you have many options through conversation, training, and various other methods to become better at what you do and how you do it. How you choose to do these are up to you. And honestly, that's a really interesting concept. I don't know if it fully justifies the entire game like this, but I will say that I do like this idea. Unfortunately, there are one or two things that waffle in between it. Now that we've gotten the story out of the way, let's go ahead and discuss the visuals. Now, the visuals are, honestly, really pretty darn good, while they're in a cutscene. Unfortunately, the rest of the game does not look nearly this good. A lot of places, they actually kind of look like they're barely upscaled from last-gen console graphics. It's kind of distracting, honestly. I'm not sure if this was done intentionally to kind of make the rest of the world look shabby, but if that were the case, everybody else looks way too clean and pretty. So, it creates a bizarre disconnect. Seriously, in the 1400s, I guarantee you nobody looked anywhere near this good. No one was this clean. They lived next to heaps of dung, for God's sakes. They even have an entry about people having poop pits. Now, again, I don't have a problem with this game in concept, and if this weren't a fully priced retail game, I probably wouldn't knock it so hard. But, unfortunately, there are one or two other things, and most of them center around your main character there. And I hope you enjoy that look on his face, because that is the look you are gonna get a lot. A nice little thing known as... Yep, there we go. So, normally... No, even normally I'd harp about that. But it comes really bad sometimes. I will fully admit that I'm not the best judge of character at seeing when somebody's supposed to be reacting to something in a game. But my God, does this guy not have any emotions. He sounds like he does, but he really kind of doesn't.
What on earth did you get up to last night?
Now, one last thing I will say about the gameplay, because I kind of had to wait until right now, is that it does this right here at the beginning, in which you can say what you were doing last night, and it helps affect how your stuff goes on throughout the game. I'm going to choose speech because I like talking. I'm pretty good at it sometimes, and every once in a while, I can talk my way out of a situation, usually in a game. But it allows you to build on this, and will further allow you to progress down certain roads and open up new dialogue paths.
Well, I've got a feeling there's something you're not telling me. And it's connected.
I'll be skipping through most of the conversation here for just general sake of getting on with things. But you can choose another one of the same, or you can choose to spec into something different. Now me, like any other natural person, would try and spec into something different. And seeing as how this would tie into talking, I'm gonna brag about my virility. Then again, I'm bragging to my mom in this context, so maybe I don't think about that too hard. Ugh.
Thanks, Ma, but I'm not 4 years old.
The only problem is that this seems to take the idea spec into too many things, and you become a master of none. At least in the early portions. Let's go ahead and end dialogue there. But we'll show you about that when we get to it. Now, unfortunately, this is kind of what I meant. While it's not bad, I would be hard-pressed to say that the graphics in this look good. I mean, seriously, I'm pretty sure I saw these apples in Oblivion. And the weird part is, it's kind of just all over the place as to whether or not it does actually look bad or not. Now, one thing I will give this game about the visuals, it's one of the few games that actually lets you see your body when you look down. It's something that most games just don't put a lot of forethought into, or just don't bother with. So, honestly, kudos to the game on this one. It was a smart detail to not overlook. But, as with all things, the button mapping's weird. That's why I'm jumping.
I'm starting to get hungry.
See, like right there? Show you guys one last time. Last thing I'm going to harp about the graphics. Not too many games nowadays have you put your hand through the door to open it, so just be aware of that. Let's go talk to my dad real quick. Father? Father, you make swords? Anyway, moving on to the gameplay, actually, this is a pretty good place to start talking about that, because as you've seen me move, I'm sure you've seen me stick a little bit before he starts to move, and it gives your character a bit of feeling of weight. So, whenever you do something movement-wise, you actually feel like a person, not just a static object moving throughout the world, which is nice. It's something a lot of most higher polished games don't even get down. So, again, I really have to give this game credit. It has weird forethought put into strange places that most people overlook. It's kind of neat. That being said, it falls down in some other parts. Alright, come on. Long story short, I have to go get a whole bunch of stuff for my dad here. But first, we're going to go get an axe, some nails, and some other stuff from a guy we sold to on credit who has refused to pay up. One last thing, and I know this is kind of minor, the text floating in the sky like that. Seeing as how you're usually going to be looking at a nice blue background like that, or light blue, white text on that really doesn't show up too well. So it kind of becomes difficult to read, especially if you have to read quickly, and then you have to try and find a way to look at the ground. Which with your shadow being cast all over, it kind of just means like you're looking down at the ground like an idiot. So, here's where I told you about trying to spec into too much once. Let's talk to Kunish here. Come on.
What do you want?
I want you to pay up what you owe my dad. Father sent me for money.
I've got nothing. Clear off.
Now, here's where you have to choose your words wisely. The conversation system in this is actually really neat and pretty in-depth. Give me just a minute and it'll pull up. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of different stuff you can do here. Go away! Go away, person! I'm trying to do a review. Get out! But as you can see, you can choose from a whole bunch of different styles to it. Each one improves on various things. You can appeal to people's, basically, sense of status by how well groomed you are, what you're wearing, and your general reputation. You can try and simply charm them with your natural speech options. If you look dangerous, then people will kind of think you're an intimidating person, and that will lend into your other one there. Oop. And then if all else fails, you can just bribe them. Or apparently you can brag about your horsemanship. I don't know how that works. Who knows, maybe you fight a Minotaur later and he is really, really impressed by how well you handle your horse. But each one is represented based upon how you try to do things. So, let's talk to this guy. Now, we don't know what Kunish's stuff is, but let's go ahead and see if debts must be paid.
I know things aren't easy.
Essentially, you call him a lazy asshole, and you fail. Now, there's an interesting thing about this in that you can succeed, but he doesn't do anything different, except he doesn't want to fight you. He just doesn't do anything. He just tells you to clear off again. In which case, you still have to get your stuff back from him in a different way. The other option there is you steal it back. But we're going to fight him, because this basically becomes a microcosm for the entire game, and why I think it's a problem. Alright. Now, as you can see, you got your standard amount of stuff right here. Kick, stab, you can punch at him, all kinds of stuff. So, let's lock on to him. But there, it quickly becomes a problem. I even looked up a wiki on how to beat this guy. Don't you call me a fucking dog? And it says wait for him to throw the first strike, then move away, and then jump in. The problem is, he won't strike unless you're close enough, and then he'll just tumble you around like that. And if you try and punch him, he blocks, kicks you in the face, or he uses the fucking Matrix to dodge you. I don't know what the hell. And he becomes problematic when you try and do that, because blocking takes your stamina, punching takes your stamina, and it's impossible to hit the guy. Now, don't get me wrong. I finally beat him after 4 attempts. God, dick. Come on. But the combat in this game is not great. It feels slow and cumbersome. And much like the controls of this game, it feels like it's different just for the sake of being different, not with any actual purpose to it. Damn it! Like I say, no joke about this, I tried fighting this guy 5 times. In those 5, I beat him once. And it's because of crap exactly like that. I can't hit him. I follow the guide, and even they end up getting beaten nearly half to death in this. So, yeah. Combat just sucks in this game. I don't know if it was a general statement that they were trying to say, hey, try not to get in fights in 1403 because you'll get your ass kicked. But I guess success done? Damn it. And this is kind of where the game falls apart for me, because combat like this should be easy. He's a drunkard. I should be able to kick this guy's ass no problem. Instead, I'm circling him like he's frickin' Rocky. This isn't why I play games. If I wanted to go get beat up by a drunk guy in pantaloons, I'd dress up as Commander Shepard at the fucking Ren Fair. God. Just down already. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna fast forward until either I'm dead or he's dead. See you in a second, guys. Okay. So after having a battle that would have made most heavyweight prize fighters completely collapse from exhaustion, yeah, that's effectively it. That's every single time you have to fight in this game. Until you finally learn to get better, you just do that a lot. Let's collect this guy's crap. Hammer, nails. Ugh. Normally I don't try and talk about this because it can be finicky for me, and I know it's just kind of a point of weird contention, but the hitboxes in this game are really weird, and I don't mean that for combat. I actually just mean that for picking up objects in the world. It just comes off as clunky. Unless it's a person with a wide body to it, you gotta spend a lot of time being very exact on what you pick up. Now, as I said, the user interface felt very clunky as well, so the buying menu is a really good place to start. Now, you have your main screens. I can buy charcoal, or I can sell some stuff. I want to sell axe, the hammer, and the nails. Now, normally, after I sell stuff and I generate a profit, all I have to do is just hit one button and say, okay, we're good to go. Unfortunately, I have to include another screen to it all to where I finalize the transaction. Again, it just feels like it's being different for the sake of being different. Not with anything new or interesting. Vaulting actually feels pretty good in this game, though, so... Again, weird parts that you wouldn't normally think about feel pretty darn natural and good in this. Oh yeah, one final point I'll make about the graphics. As you can see, the guy's sleeves there, they look a little too crisp. And again, this comes back to my problem with the game's overall aesthetic and how it looks like a more upscaled version of a previous graphic game. I mean, for God's sake, look at that! He doesn't actually have an arm beyond his freaking elbow. It all just disappears into that horrible thing that just sits there on top of it all. It's like a solid object. It's like he's jutting his hands out of pudding.
What's going on here?
We're just going to skip all this. No offense to it, but it doesn't really lead anywhere. Now, the weirdest part is, that fight is 100% optional. You can lose to him, then go over to your buddy there, have him tell you about lockpicks, and then you can go pick the lock to his trunk. It's very strange. While that would have been a really great way to have a fight where you're supposed to lose and you then learn about the lockpick system, instead, it's almost entirely bypassable. And while I appreciate that, it doesn't make for very exciting gameplay. Instead, it just, again, feels like being different for the sake of being different, rather than use the world's own innate models and objects to teach you how to play the game. Instead, it just says, okay, play the game. If you find stuff, great. If not, oh well. Which, part of me respects that. Honestly, it does. A lot of games hold your hand way too much, and it comes off as being very unnatural. Fortunately, with this one, that isn't an issue because this game doesn't hold anything to your advantage. Where'd she go? I'm supposed to see a woman about some ale in here. I swear she was just here. Ah, there you are. I'm glad I stopped by, too.
God save my lovely.
No, that's about it, but there is one last thing I will say, and I try not to talk about this too much because, again, it's a subjective matter, but the voice acting in this game ranges from decent to absolutely awful in placement of how the character should sound. Later on in the game, you encounter somebody who looks like they should sound about 50, and instead they sound probably closer to 25, if not younger. It really creates a bit of a disconnect. And it just really feels weird. Anyway, that's just me. All in all, this game is a mixed bag. Again, as much as I've ragged on it, I honestly really do kind of respect this game for doing some different things and trying something new and interesting, especially this day and age when most games published by a large developer just feel like they're rushed and kind of pooped out for absolutely nothing more than make a quick buck. This feels like a full-sized world, except for the camera there. God, forgot about that for a minute. Every once in a while when you're in dialogue, the camera will just rapidly switch between what you're looking at. I'm not exactly sure why. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, believe you me, it's noticeable. It has a very robust and in-depth dialogue tree and conversation techniques, but its combat is lacking to the point where it's almost laughable. The controls are okay at best, but it has some unique things that most games don't ever consider. The visuals are really great in cutscenes, but in the game... Stop doing that! But in the game, they just become kind of...
You're an angel.
I don't know what the camera's focusing on, it's freaking me out. Okay, you get the point. It's a mixed bag of ranging from okay to pretty decent.
Starting to get hungry.
Judging from what you've seen here, I'm sure you'll be able to draw your own conclusions about whether or not you're going to enjoy this game. But even if you don't like what you've seen, like that, even if you don't like what you've seen, I would highly recommend at least renting this game and seeing what it's about, because it is a little different to play it. And as always, my experience isn't going to be yours. You could have an entirely different playthrough. But, like I say, as always, these are just my opinions, and opinions are subjective. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy the game? Did you think I'm just talking a lot of hot air? Or hit air, as I was about to say? Either way, if you liked what you saw, give a like, maybe leave a comment, subscribe if you feel like, share the channel around, and as always, we'll see you back here next time.